Welcome to the Stronger Than Autoimmune podcast. As an autoimmune warrior myself, I understand living with chronic illness isn't easy. You're not alone. This podcast was made to bring hope. I will interview individuals living with autoimmunity along with businesses and experts to provide knowledge and support. As an autoimmune coach, I understand there is no cure for autoimmune disease, but lifestyle changes can influence how we feel. So join me on being stronger than autoimmune. And shout out to all the listeners out there, because without you, this podcast would not be possible. So how can you support the podcast? I'm glad you asked. There are 3 ways to support the podcast. 1, rate on Spotify. 2, review on Apple. 3, share with a fellow autoimmune warrior so they too can have hope and be stronger than autoimmune. So let's get started. Guess who I just connected with, warriors? Leap Cure. Leap what? Leap Cure. Leap Cure connects patients with clinical trials to make research more equitable and efficient. Listen to their latest clinical trial.
If you've been diagnosed with thyroid eye disease and are seeking potential new treatment options, you might be interested in the LIDS clinical trial. If you're 18 and over, have a diagnosis of Graves' disease or Hashimoto's, and are interested in potentially participating in research, you can fill out a short questionnaire at lpcur.com/TED. You'll be connected with someone on the team to determine whether it might be a good fit for you. Check your eligibility and learn more at lpcur.com/TED.
Hello, my next guest is marriage coach Claire Jørgensen. She coaches men and women to save their broken marriage. She helps them avoid divorce, not tear down all that they have built over the years, and save their marriage instead. So thank you, Claire, for joining me on the Stronger Than Autoimmune podcast.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah. So where are you connecting from?
So I'm in Denmark, in Copenhagen.
Yeah. Beautiful accent. I just love to hear, but it's late over there, right? It's about 4 o'clock.
It is 4 p.m. here. So my accent it's a combination of things everywhere, but originally I come from Ghana. I have lived a bit in the US. I've been in UK, and I think recently I spent a lot of my time here in Denmark. So it's not any of those accents. It's just a combination of stuff.
You make it your own.
Exactly.
Awesome. Mm-hmm. Well, I am very interested in your story. What made you get into being a marriage coach? I mean, you could be a coach for anything.
Yes. So my story is fun, it's dramatic, and but it has a happy ending. So my husband and I, my husband is a Danish man, and we met, and we were madly in love. So it was a very nice fairy tale until we got married, and then infertility showed its ugly head. And that was tough for us. That was a whole bunch of stuff that, was tough on us individually, but as a couple. So by the time we came to, the middle part of it, our marriage was beginning to shake a bit. We were very lucky. We had kids, 2 amazing kids eventually, but the marriage was still in trouble. And when your marriage is in trouble and you have kids, they can turn the heat up, because now you have to also agree on diaper changes, who takes the evenings. We both were career people. So that was tough. And I think eventually, we hit, troubled marriage. Let's just call it that. And we tried different things. We're actually quite creative sometimes, but then we eventually decided, or at least I decided I was done, and I wanted out. I actually wanted a separation, but my husband, he doesn't do this thing in between, and I'm so grateful he's like that. He's like, either we are in or we are out. I don't know what a separation is. So then out was the only option. So we actually got divorced. Yeah,
Wow.
I know. And when we got divorced, I mean, at the point we got divorced, we didn't like each other. I mean, we've always been friends, so we could figure out how to, be civil around the kids, and we came up with a good arrangement. But we didn't like each other. If you spoke to me about my husband, you spoke to me at that time, all I would do is to just basically complain about my husband. I mean, I'm sure he didn't go around complaining about me, but those that he was close to, he did have his own venting avenue. So we didn't really like each other. And I remember one day sitting down and thinking, is this what life is going to be like? My kids
Mm.
going here one week and going there the other week, and that particular year I was alone for Christmas because my family is not here. And he had the kids for Christmas. And I was thinking, ooh, life is going to be, long.
Mm.
If
Yeah.
this is what life is going to be like. Um, I had a couple of people inviting me over for Christmas, but in Denmark, Christmas is a very family affair. So you will be a third wheel, at people's family dinner where they're talking about stuff and you're just you. So I decided maybe we could reconcile in a way where we could actually still have, family dinners or occasions together. Maybe we could travel apart in a good way. So what if, even though we are divorced, we reinvented the way we could be, as a divorced family? And so I started looking into what could be done. And I
Mm.
realized that, my husband, he was not interested. So that was going to be me. If I really wanted us to reconcile in some way and come up with some good agreement, I was going to have to do the work. And that's one of the main things that I emphasize on. And that's the reason why I also say that to save a marriage, you don't need two people. You need one person that is committed to doing the work. So I had to take a long look at myself and I had to do the work, which means I had to be a nicer person towards him. I had to stop the nagging. I had to stop complaining about how horrible he was. I had to start looking at something good to connect with him about. So I reached out for reconciliation, and it was not for us to get together at all. It was just, could we even just go for summer holidays together? Because you're going to
Mm.
have to take the kids somewhere. I'm going to have to take the kids somewhere. It's going to even be exhausting for these kids to go for 2 weeks with mommy, 2 weeks with daddy. It's like, is this even a life?
Yeah.
And my husband had a girlfriend at that time, but he's very focused on his children anyway. So as I started looking internally at myself, I realized that actually I needed to do a lot of work. I realized how negative I was actually. I realized how I had to consciously struggle to look for good in the dynamics between us. And that was how my journey started. And I realized I didn't even have time to focus on him and what he was doing and what he wasn't doing. I had a
That
lot of
is
work to do.
tough.
Yeah, it was. I had to put my ego aside. That's the
Yeah.
biggest thing. I had to put my ego aside. I had to decide that I wanted reconciliation over being right in conversations. I wanted reconciliation over, I insist you did something, you should apologize. So it's not like any of us were innocent, but each of us thought you change.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Pointing the
then this
finger.
marriage will be good. Exactly. So that was my journey. And the journey of reconciliation, when I started working on myself and I started showing up in my marriage, actually not in my marriage, in my divorce, intentionally, as a co-parent, as an amazing person, as a kind person, as a person that the other person actually enjoyed being around, he also, leaned in. And then we ended up actually enjoying the most amazing vacation together, even though we were divorced. And from there, it actually took off to a good place. And then we actually got remarried. So
Oh,
that's my
wow.
story.
So I'm curious, how many
Mhm.
years was it between the divorce to when you finally got remarried?
So 3 years, 1.5 years, and then one, probably about half a year where I did a lot of work. And then he actually also leaned in. So my language changed, my attitude changed, and he also, was started being nice to me. And that was where it took off from. And we are so happy that we actually got divorced because that first marriage was not a good marriage. But we are more happy that we were able to find ourselves back together because we are very happy. And it's the same two people. So it was the dynamics that was a problem. It wasn't me, it wasn't him. It was the relationship.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you for sharing. And I can tell that your marriage is blossoming because you are smiling and just telling the story. I mean, if it wasn't true, you wouldn't be smiling. So thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
So I'm wondering, when people date, it's all, fun and giggles and lovey-dovey. And you could do that for years, right? But then once you get married, it's a completely different ball game. So talk about what makes marriage so difficult, or why does it change things?
So I think at least one of the biggest things I have experienced is our expectations. And yesterday I just saw a quote somewhere that said that marry reality, not potential. So when we are dating people, what we get is actually a fairy tale version of reality. And it's not because they change, but the truth is, there's something exciting about, seeing you only when I want to see you. Even if you are, so the closest to marriage is those that are moving together for a longer period of time before they get married. They don't get that shocked when they get married, actually. But for those of us, at least from the background that I come from, you typically will be dating the person. Maybe you spent a weekend here or there, maybe you went on some holidays, but marriage is the first time that you live with a person continuously for a year or 6 months or sometimes even a month. And so you start seeing different aspects of the person, and you actually have to do life together. In marriage, you cannot, just lock yourself up. Okay, I called him, I didn't get hold of him. Maybe we'll talk tomorrow. This person is in your house. You are also in their house. You are together, all the time. And so you are actually forced to get along. And I'm sure if I had to stay with my brother for a year continuously, even though I've lived with him for many years, he will get, he will get on my nerves, and I'll probably also get on his nerves. So I think for most people, or for most of us, it is unrealistic expectations. And it is because of all the movies and stuff that we watch, the fairy tale, the things that we watch in these movies, they paint a certain picture. Sometimes I hear people saying that maybe I married the wrong person. I don't believe in the wrong person. I believe in actually maybe paying attention to what you pick. So the choice to start with, because there are some things that I cannot deal with. For example, not to judge, but I cannot deal with an alcoholic partner, which means if I am meeting my husband in bars and he's always drinking, and every time I'm having conversations with him, he's drunk, maybe I should pay attention because I don't want that. But that face is like, oh, he's so funny. And then you marry and this person comes home every day and they're drunk every weekend, then suddenly that's a problem because now you want him to be something else.
Right.
But this person showed you who they were before you got married. So sometimes we don't pay attention, and then we marry and then we have different expectations that the person is going to become a better person. We are able to bring the best out of each other if we figure out how to be together in a good way. But typically in the beginning, it's a forming phase. It's a phase where we are figuring out who we are individually. We are even figuring out who we are as individuals and figuring out who we are together as a couple. So that's the first thing. That's one of the first things that go wrong. And then the second thing is that I don't think we invest in our relationship. So my husband and I had a fairy tale. I mean, we love traveling. So if you didn't know our marriage was in trouble, we still traveled to amazing places. And every time we traveled, we were on good terms. It was amazing. But we come back to reality and then reality hits us. So when our marriage started having issues, I think one of the things that actually saved us was that we were desperately looking for help. But we didn't start looking for help early. We did have a lot of conversations. We did try. And I mean, help is not going to a counselor one time in 3 years. And then you spoke to somebody one time and then you think your marriage will be fixed. And we did that. But part of the reason why we were able to salvage our marriage was because I spent a lot of money on coaches. My husband did as well. And then together we did at some point. So we kind of understood what the issues were. We had some tools to work with, but the reality is whether one of us wanted to do the work. But the truth is one person has to actually do the sacrifice. And typically when one person takes that bold step, you become like a role model for the other person to also model after. But none of us want to do the work because it's a lot of work. Because like I said, I had to put my ego aside. And I mean, I think I have an ego, but I don't even think my ego is the biggest. I deal with people cases and I'm like, ooh, you're going to have to really, because it's a lot of focus on I am right. And I mean, do you know who I am and why should I do this? And why should he get to walk away, and be, not be the one sacrificing, and putting the ego aside is something that a lot of people struggle with. So when the problems come, it is how we deal with it and whether we actually want to do the work. So in the beginning, wrong expectations, challenges come and challenges will come. I mean, if people are married and they claim they've never had some challenges, I don't know. But I believe
They're
that
lying.
actually the challenges make us better. They make us better. They are lying. You're right, Desiree. They make us better. They make us love each other more, actually. They bring something more out of us. So when the challenges come, it's how do we deal with it? And whether somebody actually wants to do the work and puts their ego aside.
So that's interesting how you mentioned that challenges make us love each other more. I don't know about that. Just kidding. No, but I'm curious. Like, what makes you say that?
Yeah. So what I mean by that is, for example, if you have a partner that has, a habit that you don't like, and I'm not going to mention the one that everybody dreads, which is infidelity. I'm not going to mention that one because I'm not sure about that one. But the other ones, like, for example, I have a partner that, smokes. And I don't like it, and maybe the person was not smoking before we got married and it's something that they picked up along the way. So that challenge in itself and how we navigate it can make us stronger and form a stronger bond. So it is me watching this person and saying, I love you so much that I'm willing to watch you do the work to get rid of it. I'm willing to not just throw you out of the window. And the other person also saying that, I love you so much that this is hard for me to stop, but I'm trying, I'll do my best. And how we navigate through it and so is the process of getting rid of that problem. So the challenges themselves actually can make the relationship really stronger. So if I see a couple that is like, you don't have any problems that you discuss, you don't have anything you don't like about each other or anything that you struggle about, I'm like, are you guys sure you're real with each other? Do you actually talk about your feelings? I'm not saying that everybody needs to have a problem because they creep up and they are much bigger when they creep up. So the challenges
you can't ignore it anymore.
No, you cannot.
It just
but there are
becomes
some
like a
challenges.
Exactly.
But there are some challenges like infidelity that requires some other kind of navigation before they become a good challenge. Because that shakes the foundation of trust.
So, okay, now that we're on that subject, trust, what are the pillars of a healthy marriage? I mean, there has to be certain foundations, right?
Yeah, yes. And I'm going to say something that, I hope challenges us a bit. So one of the biggest foundations of a good marriage is two individuals who are healthy. And when I say health, I don't mean physical health. I mean emotionally, mentally, psychologically. One of the challenges that I believe is the biggest issue is that I have my own issues. I have my traumas. I have my self-confidence issues. I have my self-esteem issues. So every time my partner says something, I bark at them and say, you don't like me. You don't appreciate me. You don't respect me. And it's not him, it's me. So if I have these issues and he also has these issues, it is very likely that we will struggle to form a healthy marriage. So one of the biggest cornerstones of a good marriage is two individuals who are healthy in their mind and in their spirit and in their, in their emotions. That's the underlying thing. Because if I am good with myself and I am okay with myself, even if I mess up, I will have the confidence and the respect to be honest about it, and be honest early enough for my partner, and also respect that my partner has to process it. And my partner to also respect that I'm still an individual. I messed up or whatever happened with me there. But, I am also going through a process. Then we can deal with it. So if we are not each healthy, and that's the reason why if you get a good marriage coach, one of the first things that they will ever do is to work on you as an individual. We work on you and find out what's going on with you before we deal with the problem. Because if we deal with the problem and you still have issues with you, it will take you literally just a few months and you create the problem again, or you move on into another relationship and the problem will come up again, because it starts with us. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is trust. It's a big deal. And that's the reason why suspicion in a relationship, the suspicion itself tears a relationship apart, because the suspicion shakes the foundation of trust, the cornerstone of a marriage, which is trust. So if I'm gonna marry somebody, I better make up my mind I'm gonna trust them. And that's a decision you make. I'm gonna trust you. Even if I have my doubts, I'm going to trust you. Unless I find evidence, unless something is sitting in my face, of course, I should also be realistic and reasonable. I'm going to trust you. Snooping around your phone, suspecting you, wondering where you're going. I mean, that's not making a decision to trust somebody. So trust is actually a decision we make, but it's also something that I need to make sure that I do things that contributes to my partner's ability to trust me. So each person choosing to do what it takes and also choosing to trust the other person. For me, if you can do these two things, you are quite far into a happy and a healthy relationship. We don't need to do a lot of things. We just need to be healthy ourselves and trust each other. That's it. We'll be fine.
What are the signs that somebody is healthy? I mean, like for the people that are single out there listening, what are some things that they can look out for before they get married?
Yeah. So if you meet a person and they spend so much effort and time, and sometimes we think it's romantic, or oh, he cares where I'm going, she cares and she wants to track me, and if somebody has too much interest in every single move you're making, that is an indication of insecurity and somebody that might struggle to trust you. It's not romantic. Some of the things we think it's not romantic.
That's
it's different. Yeah, it isn't. But sometimes, especially women, we like this chauvinism where, oh my God, he's protective over me, he cares where I am. Well, that thing is gonna bite you in future in marriage, because it doesn't stop. It becomes actually worse. It becomes, where are you? When are you coming home? Why do you need to meet that girlfriend? So those are some of the signs. If the person also absolutely never asks where you are going, what you are doing, it means that they probably don't care that much. That's the other extreme end. So a healthy person is somebody that, cares, but has boundaries and also lets you be. Doesn't need to know everywhere you are, everywhere you are every time. A healthy person is somebody that also gives you information themselves. Oh, I'm going to go here, tomorrow. Whether you remember that they said it or not, they just feel, obliged to some extent to share what is going on in their lives with you. If somebody, oh, he's so secretive, he's so nice, I can tell him everything. Well, tomorrow you'll be married to him and you wouldn't know where he went last night, So those are some of the signs that we actually ignore when we are dating people. Now, somebody that is helpful, somebody that is hospitable. I mean, being helpful doesn't mean the person needs to know how to cook or clean or do stuff, but it's like, are you okay? Do you want a cup of tea? Do you want some water? These indications, small indications that the person is okay in themselves, they pay attention to themselves and they pay also attention to you appropriately. That's somebody that is healthy. So pay attention to the person's habits. Is this somebody that sleeps healthily, eats healthily, has some things that they do that are, interesting? Do they have some hobby that they love doing? Do they have good relationships with people in their lives? The fact that the person doesn't have a good relationship with his parents or her parents does not mean that he's a problem. But if that person has issues with mom, issues with dad, issues with siblings, issues with best friends,
everybody,
complaining all the time, this friend of mine did this, this is a warning sign of somebody that has issues with relationships,
Alert,
So
alert.
exactly. So it's these petty things, just normal things. They don't have to be a superhero or a superstar. They just need to be a normal person. Is it also somebody that expresses the ranges of emotions reasonably? Is it somebody that is happy all the time? That's somebody that has avoidance as a strategy. Is it somebody that is always, look at me, I'm a victim? That's somebody that, has this, melancholic, very negative, in a not happy place kind of thing. I'm not saying that if somebody has a melancholic temperament, it's bad. That's actually, those people are amazing people. I'm just saying that it shouldn't be like that all the time.
Right.
So a balance of different things. Is it somebody that, it's okay to admit they failed sometimes? Is it somebody that is able to celebrate when something is going well for them? And you can ask questions. You can ask if the person is showing you maybe a certain part of them because you are dating. You can ask that, oh, when was the last time that, you did something that you were proud of yourself, and see how they respond. Or, oh, you seem to be happy all the time. I like that you're so happy, but is there anything in your life that, you can share with me that I can, I can help you with? If the person is somebody that never takes help, or never is like, I'm a super person and I am just okay and I don't need anybody, they probably will not need you eventually in the marriage as well. So it's just being a healthy, balanced person. And I
Being
always say
human, it sounds like.
exactly, being human. We don't need to be perfect. We just need to be human. But as I talk about you observing the other person, I am also interested in you, me as a person. Observe yourself. If I am in a good place, it's very likely I'll attract somebody that is also in a good place and somebody that is also healthy. If something is dysfunctional inside me, that dysfunction will attract its dysfunction so that they can hang out together. And so then it's likely I'm going to attract something that, has something in it, and I may not even be able to pick it up. Now, nobody is perfect. I am not perfect. I'll not meet a perfect person. But I say to people that are going into marriage, because I do premarital counseling as well sometimes, I say that just make sure you know what you're going into. Mm-hmm. If this is my package, and accept that this is the part that, this person is like this, and I know he or she is like this, but I'm okay with it. Don't go into marriage where there is a big flag of something you do not like or you are not able to accept, and then hope that it changes. It doesn't change. It's not fair to you. It's not fair to the other person either.
Right. Yeah. You have to go in there eyes open and realistic, it sounds like.
Exactly.
Thank you for explaining all that. You're so good at that. I'm wondering, is there a realness to, there's that saying of the 7-year itch? I mean,
Yes, there is. So there are different itches, actually. I think 5 years is one of them. There's 7 years, and there's actually a 10, 11-year itch. A lot of marriages, after 10 years, you would think, woohoo, we made it. There is an itch there. That was our itch after, around that time. I think what happens after, let's say, 7 years, whether it's 5 or 7 or a turn, is that, so by that time, you have experienced challenges together. You have experienced sides of each other that you don't like. And if you haven't consciously dealt with it, they have accumulated. So, and, it's also been a couple of years, and I may have made, some bucket list for myself, some goals for myself. And I look back and I'm like, 10 years, what did I achieve? And I look back beside me and I'm like, that's the guy. He's part of the reason why I didn't achieve.
It's his
all
fault.
Those things. Exactly. What if I married somebody else? What if I didn't even marry at all? And so people start doing this reflection. Meanwhile, there is a huge baggage of problems that have happened over the years that have piled up on top of each other. If we haven't dealt with them, and sometimes they are so many, they have become so much that they are too fresh in our mind about what isn't working in the relationship. That's why I say be intentional in marriage. I don't remember what my husband did to me last week that I didn't like, but I'm sure that, he did something, because I'm very intentional about it now. But there was a time that, are you kidding me? I remember what he did an hour ago, 3 days ago, 1 week ago, 1 month ago, 1 year ago, and we can keep going on and on and on, and they fall piled
You got a
up.
list.
I have a list, You just need to say start, and I can tell you 100 things that I remember, you know. And I speak to couples, I normally start with an individual, and I ask, for example, a guy, and I say, can you tell me 10 things that you absolutely love about your partner? And you'll be shocked that somebody has been in a marriage or a relationship for 5 years or 7 years or 10 years, and they struggle to come up with a list like that. And then it triggers, some major drama in relationships. So there is a truth about the age, but it's not the age itself. It is about, a compilation of challenges or unappreciation or non-intentional, behavior in marriage. And then suddenly you start being intentional about it or start looking at it, and it doesn't look good in front of you. And typically one person is more dissatisfied than the other, but both of them, if you ask them, they are not very happy if they have not been intentional for 5, 7, or 10 years. So it's different times for different people, but it's also like the number 7 is like, people call it a perfect number. 10 years is like, oh, we've been married 10 years. But there is a point where people sit down, look at their marriage, and they start thinking, all I can see is all these negative things that have happened in this marriage and in this relationship. And this person doesn't even like me. I'm not sure if I like them anymore. And then people start taking inventory and start looking into the marriage. And without getting the right help, it can actually propel into major crisis in the marriage.
Yeah. So when do you think people should go to, because I know you mentioned that you and your husband didn't take the proper steps. Mm-hmm. So when do you think it's the best time to start going to the counselor or going to a coach for help?
So I believe that there are some issues in a marriage that two people can figure out themselves. They can sit down together and discuss it. For example, if you have a child and you want to figure out what school the child should go to, and we disagree about it, we will probably do some investigation about the school and, have some conversations, maybe ask an expert, and then make a decision. In the same way, in the marriage, there are some things that can be discussed healthily. Now, if you have a challenge and you have tried to discuss it with your partner a couple of times and you are not able to get to a good place, it is a sign that you should get help.
Okay.
And a lot of people do not invest in their marriage. I don't think my marriage would have been saved if I didn't invest a lot in me, and my husband didn't in himself, and we didn't together seek some help. Actually, we got some help along the way. So as soon as you realize that the problem is not going away, but it's also not being solved, get help. Because the earlier you get the intervention, the easier it is. Sometimes it is a simple thing as my mindset changing or my partner's mindset changing. And experts, there are people that are professionals that know how to pick on what the issue actually is underlying. Sometimes it's something to do with my childhood trauma or something else about me. And I may not even be aware of it, or I may be aware of it, but I may not want to deal with it. But then at least what it does for us is to understand that, okay, it's not about our terrible marriage. It's not about him. It's about me. There's something going on with me, and I'm not ready to face it. And that's also love, accepting that I'm not ready to face it. So we try to navigate around that problem, and maybe with love, he helps me to get to a point where I'm ready to face it. But if we don't do that, I may start projecting things on him, or he may start assuming that some behavior that I'm putting up, it has to do with him, and he may internalize it, and I'll affect him and will affect our relationship. So sometimes we think getting help means, it has to be something really big. And they are going to talk about your parents and what they did to you and your childhood. And some of us don't want to talk about our childhood. Getting help is also just putting a pen in it and finding out what is going on here. We still have a healthy relationship. We still love each other, but there is something here that maybe we can deal with, or maybe we want to pack for later. Or maybe we have agreed we will deal with it at this time because we think we have capacity to deal with it. So when to get help is when you have tried and it hasn't worked, and the issue still troubles you. So even something like an affair, people think they can just tell their partner, why don't you just stop? A lot of them can't really just stop. Unfortunately, it's not nice to hear it. and it makes you more annoyed if you hear that they just can't stop. But a lot of people, they just can't stop for two reasons. Either they cannot help themselves, or they have become, that thing that they are doing, even though it's negative and it's hurting the other partner, has become a source of, emotional feed for them. Neurologically, the brain is made to feel rewarded from things like that. So that reward, they like the reward. So even though they know they should stop, they just can't stop. So if an affair has happened in a relationship, just having a conversation with your partner for most of the time, it actually doesn't stop it. But very early on, if you get intervention, your partner might actually end up getting to understand why they are even doing it. Nobody is that horrible. I don't believe anybody is that horrible that wants to just hurt their partner. We struggle to be objective about it. That's the reason why a professional will help. So as soon as you've done something or you've tried and it's not working, it's time to get professional help. And there are a lot of coaches out there that will give you a free consultation. And then you find out if there is something more that should be explored, or that even in itself gave you some insights that you can work with.
It seems like really taking an account of everybody's got, you come into a relationship, you come into a marriage, and everybody's got, I think that's why it's so dynamic, like you were saying and have been saying, that everybody has their own package, of thoughts and traumas, or maybe there's not a trauma, but there's always, everybody comes with their own package, and it's almost like a revealing, if something is wrong, you gotta unpack that package. Or, also I'm seeing more of a visual of like, you have two presents that come together and they're beautiful and they look beautiful when you start dating, and then you start unwrapping it and there's a little crease there, there's a little, the box doesn't look very pretty, there's a writing on there that probably says something shouldn't, that's how I visualize it. So everybody's not perfect, like you were saying, you're a human, but it's how you deal with the other person, how you deal with the problems internally. And since this is an autoimmune podcast, how do you deal with, what's your experience in working with people that are chronically ill, they're never going to feel better? What do you do in a marriage like that?
Yeah. So, what in principle, what you're asking is when sickness hits us in a marriage, or when there is a sickness that we cannot deal with, we cannot get away with, we cannot get rid of, we cannot just take a pill and then it goes away. And I'll use something like my experience with infertility to explain. It's not the same thing, but if I look back at my marriage, the first one before we it got destroyed. If there is anything I would have done differently, it would have been the way we walked that infertility journey. Because I think what was going on was not accepting. I'm not saying you should accept that the infertility is good. It's not good. We didn't like it. We wanted something else. We wanted a child, and we were willing to take a journey to find out what we can do about it. So for an autoimmune disease, for example, you cannot overlook the fact that there are painful days. There are days where your partner may not be themselves, or they may not be able to do a lot, where you have to take care of them. So the first thing is just accepting this is our situation and actually enjoying the days that you can enjoy. Because if I take infertility, for example, if we were not having fertility treatments, we were two individuals, we didn't have kids, we were free, we had money, we could travel, we could do whatever we wanted to do. But we were so, what is it called? We were so under the covers of infertility that we couldn't even necessarily enjoy our lives fully. And we convinced ourselves that we're not going to be able to enjoy life unless we got kids. I know people that don't have kids and are having a fantastic life. I actually have a friend who also went through infertility, and after halfway through the journey, they decided, you know what? Let's stop it. We are just going to enjoy our lives, and they have an amazing life. So being able to just accept the reality in front of us and enjoying what we are able to enjoy with each other. Right now, my marriage is not fantastic because we became perfect people. It's fantastic because we know how to appreciate each other. We are here now. We are both healthy. If we are healthy or if none of us is sick, we are sitting here. We are just enjoying a cup of coffee or a cup of tea together. That's fine. We enjoy that moment, and I show up fully for him and he shows up fully for me. So not spending those days that are challenging, moping around and being negative and complaining about each other or hitting each other where, it hurts, but rather accepting that he is not well today or she's not well today. That is also fine. She or he is in pain. I'm going to do my best to, reduce it, or if I can reduce it, do what I can help. The rest, I cannot do much else about it. And just being there, that's fine. Or sometimes leaving because the person just wants to be alone. That's fine. So loving the person the way that I can or the way that they want also to be loved, a combination of the two. But very important is, even if it is one day a month, that we have a good day. Just make that one day count. And it doesn't have to be, let's go to amusement park or do something crazy. Just sitting in the sofa, drinking coffee, having a chat with each other, just looking at each other, being happy, just being and enjoying just being. That makes the biggest difference.
Yeah.
And especially when there is sickness in the family, it is very critical that we remember to compliment each other. We remember to say those nice words, because words give life. So if someone is not well, it is the nice words that can give them the energy for tomorrow. So being very deliberate about, not going around and just throwing careless words at each other, seeing each other. Even if yesterday I was out of bed for 5 minutes and today it's 6 minutes, noticing that, oh, wow, you spend 1 minute extra out of bed today. And I'm not just saying it because I can say it, but meaning it and letting it mean something for me, that I'm so happy that today I got 6 minutes with you where you were, feeling good. And accepting that sickness affects people's moods. So if somebody is not well, being realistic in what I expect of them. I cannot expect them to be energetic and, if maybe they are negative sometimes, maybe they are complaining, even though I'm being kind towards them. And that's where you also potentially need some expert help to deal with that, because if they are not always positive, it can also affect the partner in some way. But the partner understanding that this is the reality of their situation will help them to not take it, to heart and take it as if it's an attack on them. So it's how we are together, how we enjoy the moments we can enjoy, and being conscious and deliberate about the difficult moments, and actually having a strategy for dealing with the difficult moments. It goes a very long way. I have couples that have sickness in the family and they are still enjoying an amazing marriage because they are intentional about it.
Yeah. As far as the marriage and what, one person like me, I have autoimmune disease, and we got married and I didn't know I had autoimmune disease. We were dating, everything was great, but then I slowly started to decline, and we got married and I hit rock bottom. And so I couldn't work anymore. Finances changed. My like you said, my mood changed. I didn't know I went from, this happy, bubbly person to I was depressed, I was moody. I mean, I didn't see it. I just, what would you recommend for the person that is going through autoimmune disease? What are some tips that they should do for bringing in?
If we show up as ourselves, we are actually able to help each other. We are able to pinpoint when something is off and it needs help, or it needs a little bit of encouragement or a little bit of a push. So don't put the pressure on yourself. I don't think you should do anything else than just be yourself and take care of yourself. That is the best way you can love your partner, and he should also be himself. and take care of himself and show up as he is able to with the skills he has and who he is, that's the best way to also love you in this process. And then if there are difficult challenges, we both commit to solving it.
And thank you for sharing that. I mean, I think that makes sense to, because I mean, I do that naturally because I don't want him to know how much pain I'm in, and when I do hide it, he is surprised. Like later on, he's like, well, you were fine like yesterday. And I was, well, not really. But so showing up and telling him the truth, like on a scale 1 through 10, you know, I feel like a 5 or a 4 today. And that is very helpful, like you said, so he could see the patterns, because as humans, we notice, we take notice of that. But as a caregiver, since you are a caregiver now, what can the caregiver do to take care of themselves? Because like it could be a lot. Like you said, you're wanting this other person to, you want to take all their pain away. You want them to be healthy. You'll do anything. And that's a lot of pressure on the caregiver. What can they do to take care of themselves? So,
yes.
Yeah.
I think so. I have, you realize that I have a theme of people taking care of themselves.
Yeah.
Now, as a caregiver, one of the things that I have done is I actually went down in terms of work. And it's not because my partner needed it or because anybody asked me to do it, but I realized that I also needed to take care of myself and process what is going on. And I had a desperate need to understand what's going on here, and be there. Whether they need me or not, I just had a need to be there. So I had to go through my own process and find out what is the one thing that I really would love to be able to do in the season. And that one thing was to be there. So then the pressure I put on myself is, how can I be there? Because that's all that matters the most to me. Everything else, you know, I gave him the respect to make some decisions. Of course, if he's going for appointments, I go with him. Not every time. Sometimes I'm so tired. He's like, go to bed. I'm gonna go. I can drive myself there. I'm fine. And I allow that, you know, but there are some of the appointments I'm like, I have to be there, even though I look tired. I want to be there. So for me, being there was an important thing. And I had a very demanding job. So I had to calm down a bit in terms of my job to be able to be there. Now, being there for him was also being there for me, because it means that I don't have so much pressure on me, because it's a big deal to watch a partner go through something that, you know, you can see that they're struggling with. And also what you do, or what my husband, the two of you people in your shoes do, is you try to protect your partner. So you don't give all the information. You don't want them to be worried. You don't want them to know everything that is going on. So for me, because I prioritize being there, I can see a lot, which means that he doesn't need to tell me everything. I can see what is going on. I can see it and I can experience it, and I can see he doesn't want to talk about it because he wants to protect me, or he just doesn't want to deal with it. He doesn't want to face it, you know, because when you talk about some things, you also have to process it with your brain and all these things. But another thing that I also do to take care of myself, and actually in a situation like this, taking care of me is also taking care of him. In the same way, you taking care of yourself is also taking care of your partner, and vice versa, is that I pay attention to him. When I see that he's training himself, I can be a very tough woman. I'm saying, you're going to bed. Stop it. You know, if you care about me, stop it. Because what you're doing is painful to watch. I can see you're tired. Why are you pushing yourself that much? So that is also taking care of myself, because I don't care about the dishes lying there. But I care when I see, like, why are you pushing yourself? Who told you that, you know, in what you're going through, a part of the requirements is for you to excessively push yourself. I know you want to show up strong for us to feel that nothing is really wrong and to protect us, but you don't have to do that, because when I see you straining yourself, you are not taking care of me because you are making me overthink the problem. And now I'm going into my head and inside my feelings and getting worried. So go to bed. So taking care of myself is also sometimes actually taking care of him and paying attention to what is going on. So it is also taking care and paying attention to the things that he does that potentially will worry me, and being vocal about it is taking care of myself. You're going to do everything to shield him, not give him all the information, because you know, in the same way that they don't want you to experience pain, you don't want them to experience pain. And what you know is pain for them is the emotional pain and the helplessness of not knowing how to help you. So you're going to shield them. So how he can, take care of himself is accepting that you're going to do that. You're going to do that anyway, and still calling it out on the times where he says, why do you do that? And, we can call things out without it being an argument. We can call things out without it being a problem in the marriage. So saying, sweetheart, I saw you were in pain. I'm here. I can see everything. I don't know why you're not telling me, but if it helps you in that time to not tell me about it, it's okay. But just so that you know, if you told me, it wouldn't break me, because I can see you're in pain anyway. So it's not like I cannot see it. But I understand how you want to protect me, and that's amazing, and that's loving from your side. But I also want to be there for you. So it's having the honest conversations and just accepting, allowing the person to be. Sometimes in marriage, we can get so focused on forcing our partners to be something else for ourselves. But the best way we can love each other is to just let people be.
Anything else you think is good for marriage? I mean, I think it's the basics. I know complications like sickness can really create overwhelm.
Now, like I said, I had to stop working a bit. I had a very high paying, high profile job. And we just re-looking at life and redefining what is important here in life, and just taking it one day at a time. Sometimes we project a lot into the future, and that creates the worry. I want to be able to buy this and do this and do that, and I can see what my economy looks like right now, and then I get worried about the future. A lot of the things we worry about, they never even happen. So for the first and foremost, it's just recalibrating and deciding what is important in life right now. I appreciate just being able to sit with him when he also has low levels of energy, and sometimes he can just sleep the whole day, and then sometimes we are there until 2 a.m. and we are thinking we are not good influence on each other. We should probably go to bed. We are terrible adults, deal with it. And we make a big deal out of it. And there are times where we plan, we are going to watch something. He's tired. And he could be tired that day. He could be tired the day after. It's fine. All I do is I look forward to the day that we can do it together again. So it is the little things. It is enjoying it and recalibrating life and accepting that this is what it is now, and making the best out of it. That's what I'll advise on a daily basis. For the economic part, it is also a similar thing, deciding that, okay, we cannot do those things that we used to be able to do, but it is okay. But like you said, the dishes are not getting done. And in the past, both my husband and I, we are crazy people. Even if I am tired and I'm about to fall down, I absolutely cannot go to bed without dishes not done in the sink. I think nowadays, 50% of the time, our dishes are not done. We go to bed. I mean, I could actually literally be in the process of washing it and just leave it and go to bed. That's life. Life has changed. And I don't care about those dishes anymore. The thing that I do is I make sure that I will do it before, the day starts. So my husband normally goes for his radiations in the morning, and I'll do it before he comes home. That's something I've told myself, that when he comes home, the house shouldn't look like it looked before he left. But in the night, you will not get me washing dishes. And if I'm doing something else and I can see that he has energy, I will stop. I will literally stop. Even if I'm on a conversation with somebody on the phone, I will stop and say, you know what, I gotta go. this is my, our time. This is one of the few times in the last 2-3 days that he has energy. And I can see that because I can see him talking on the phone, laughing, happily walking around. I'm like, dude, get off the phone. We're going to watch something. We're going to do something together.
Yeah.
And then he might joke and say, well, my very, very dictator wife says I should get off the phone now. Bye. He does that. And I'm like, thank you for making me look like a good wife on the phone. And then we will hang out because I can see, well, he looked like he didn't have energy, an hour ago, but it looks like he has energy now. So we can hang out now. So it's also just grabbing the moment when I can see it, but also just letting him be. I can also get tired. Your partner is also emotionally processing a lot of things. Right. And sometimes I get up and I'm like, I just don't feel like doing anything today. And I'm not the sick one, but I don't feel like doing anything. I don't feel like washing the dishes. I don't even feel like making the kids, meal and stuff like that. And then we say, okay, should we do pizza today? Yeah, we do pizza. I used to have an opinion about McDonald's and, oh God, who gives their kids McDonald's? You know what? My kids eat a lot of McDonald's these days in this season of our lives. And it's totally fine. It's not going to kill them. Even they understand that we are in a season, of our lives. So it's just being realistic, being honest with myself, taking care of myself, letting him take care of himself. Let everything else be a secondary matter. When you have those 5 minutes together, it's okay. Just appreciating it. And you know what happens though is that you and your partner appreciate each other much more. You as long as it's not illegal, because stepping on legal bricks is really painful.
Yes.
It's really painful. So I'm like, pick up all your legal, leave the rest, go to bed. It's fine. Even the kids, we are more lenient towards them because we only have a certain amount of capacity as people.
Right.
And we have to deliberately choose what we choose to put our capacity or our efforts into.
Right. Well, thank you so much for sharing all of your tips and your stories. And how can people work with you? I know you have like I was playing with it last night. The is it the test?
Yeah, the temperature test.
Temperature test of marriage.
Yes.
And then you also have like a cheat sheet of information on marriage. So anything else? How can people work with you? You can work with anybody all over the world because of Zoom, right? Is that something that you prefer?
Yes. So I offer this test that Desiree is talking about, which is a 7 minutes or 5 minutes test, depends on how fast you go, which asks you some questions about your marriage. And typically when you finish that test, I always invite people to book me for a free 45 minutes transformational call, because it's your marriage, it's sensitive things, and just getting, oh, your marriage is good, or oh, your marriage is bad. When I was in trouble with my marriage, I don't think that would encourage me necessarily. So I want to dig a bit into it with you and then talk about it and understand and also get to know you, and you get to know me a bit, and then we can explore if we can work together. If we are able to work together, then I have 3 things that I offer. I offer the one-to-one sessions, and where I have like a 7-week program, which is 7 weeks to save your marriage. I do the same thing in a group pod, and I highly recommend the group pods because first of all, it's more economically friendly, but also you meet people that are in exactly the same situation as you, because we try to put the groups together very accurately, and you get a sisterhood or a brotherhood, and you get to work with some amazing people. And I'm beginning to also launch a digital program where I would, be doing, it's almost like a group pod, but it is, do it yourself kind of. But the first few people that will be doing the digital program with me, you would almost experience it as a group pod because I'll be doing it live with you. And you would actually help me to shape it, and I'll be taking your questions live. If you take the digital, you also experience me one-on-one. If you take the group, you also experience me one-on-one, not on the same frequency as the one-on-one coaching. So that's what I and so if you just want some free resources, yesterday I did a webinar on marital affairs, You can just listen to it and get some nuggets on how to, deal with that if you're having your partner is having an affair or you are having an affair, how to deal with it or how to navigate that situation. But whatever it is, I hope you get help if your marriage is in trouble, because there's so much help out there. And with the right help, you will be able to either save your marriage or exit the marriage in a healthy way. I always emphasize on do it in a healthy way so that you can move on properly with your life. So get the help that you need, whether it's me or someone else.
Thank you. Thank you for
Thank you,
sharing.
Sid.
And I appreciate your time. And you have a wonderful evening, because it's
Thank you so much.
evening where you're at, right?
Yes, yes. Thank you for having me, Desiree. This has been amazing. I'm grateful.
Thank you. I hope you enjoyed the episode. As an autoimmune coach, I know what you track on a daily basis makes a big contribution to your symptoms and flares. If you're interested in a free tracking app, go to Isla Health. And like you, I've been hearing a lot about the health benefits of mushrooms lately, but don't care too much for the mushroom coffee. That's why I started taking BioVale Myco from Adapt Naturals. It's a blend of 8 mushrooms, including reishi, chaga, lion's mane, cordyceps, in a convenient capsule form. I get the benefits of mushrooms: more energy, sharper focus, and stronger immunity without having to give up my delicious Java. For a limited time, the folks at Adopt Naturals are offering my audience 15% off their first order. So just go ahead to adaptnaturals.com/DEZ15 to learn more and get started. Until then, stay stronger than autoimmune.